Spirit reminds you that you are more than enough. Spirit reminds you you are sustained by light and love. Spirit reminds you you are perfect as you are. Spirit reminds you. Spirit reminds you. Spirit reminds you. With every prayer, with every breath you take, you know that Spirit's always there. Spirit reminds you, you are perfect as you are. Spirit reminds you, Spirit reminds you, sweet Spirit, you feel it down in your soul. It's that still small voice we know. Spirit reminds you with every step you take. And if you listen, Spirit will share advice that He makes. Spirit reminds you, like the warmth of the sun or a guiding star. Spirit reminds you, Spirit reminds you, sweet Spirit. It's the voice in our soul, that still small voice we all know. And Spirit reminds you, Spirit reminds you. Spirit reminds you.
Please join me in prayer. On this beautiful spring day, we continue looking at ways to go from good to great to grand by examining the steps we take in order to get this done. I give thanks on this day for the one perfect life that is God. The life that belongs to each and every one within the sound of my voice, whether they're in this space, at home, in a cathedral, in a mosque, in a synagogue, in the forest, in the temple, or in their living room or kitchen having ice cream. I know that each and every one of us are an expression of the divine life that is that perfect being we call God, Creator, Yahweh, and many other names. I give thanks for each and every person who is in this space, who's come to make this celebration perfect for each and every one of us. Our musician, Karen Karsh. Our hospitality team, Lois and Debbie. Our AV, Brenna. Our practitioners who are here. And each and every one of you who has come here, gifted us with your presence as a unique expression of the divine life that is God. Come here to share your divine and loving energy as an expression of that divine life. I give thanks for all the good there is in this world and release these words into divine law where they're already done in the universal mind. I let this go, I let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is. Our first words of inspiration today come from the author Jeff Goins. A calling is not some carefully crafted plan. It's what's left over after the plan goes horribly wrong. From Esther and Jerry Hicks. Your feelings are the representatives of your guidance system. In other words, the way you feel is your true indicator of your alignment with Source and of your alignment with your own intentions, both before birth and currently. Finally, from our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, nature will not let us stay in one place too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and advancement of the soul.
Happy Sunday, New Dawn. I missed you guys last week. I'm glad to be here this week. This is a real treat for me to introduce you to Fran Winslow, who is speaking to us today. Fran is a licensed practitioner and a retired registered nurse, having spent over 20 years at the University of Iowa hospitals, the last 10 of which were in chronic pain management. As a single mom, Fran left nursing and embarked on a medical sales career to make ends meet for her family. After several years in sales, she experienced extreme burnout, allowing her to look at life differently. Fran worked with an energy coach who suggested Mile High Church, and the rest is history. She is a certified life coach and speaker and is entering her last year of ministerial studies at Holmes Institute. Fran is currently employed as an intensive skills coach with the Jefferson Center for Mental Health on the Trauma Systems Therapy team and works with families and children who have undergone violence and trauma. That's a tall order, I know from experience. On a personal note, which I always try to add to this, a few weeks ago I told you guys a story about when I was having heart problems and the doctor said, "How did you make those blockages go away?" And I told you about energy work and Reiki, and this is the beautiful soul that led me through all of that. I'm not exactly sure I would have accomplished what I accomplished as far as that healing goes without your coaching. Now, we did have many evenings of maybe a glass of wine on the patio and a lot of, or 10, and a lot of really good chats through all of that time. We became instant friends and supported each other through the entire pandemic when we weren't supposed to leave our houses, but we would just go back and forth with each other. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Fran Winslow. I know you're going to love this because she's a hoot.
Thank you. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate it. It's quite an honor to be here with all of you today. When I saw the monthly theme of From Good to Great to Grand, It reminded me, I just moved back from Florida. I moved there for 3 years, and I was with a small CSL in Cape Coral, Florida. And one of the artists created this song that went, "It's a great, grand, glorious, good God day." And so that went through my mind as I'm thinking about this topic for this month. But today we're going to talk about the steps that we take to go from great to grand to glorious and good God days. And we talk about steps a lot in our life, don't we? We talk about taking a giant leap forward, or maybe some baby steps forward, or we take a step back, and sometimes we go sideways. And it can be really a daunting task to look at taking a step forward sometimes, especially in our spiritual world. And in order to do that, we have to practice something called self-actualization. Now, what does that mean? So I looked it up, and it means the realization or fulfillment of one's talents and potentialities. Wow, isn't that inspiring? We get to cultivate what's really deep within us and bring it out into the real world. It also inspires us to live a life that's authentic to us. We get to be our authentic selves, and that's really empowering. So for me personally, it took a lot of work to find my authentic self. I grew up in a small state called Rhode Island, an even smaller town called Barrington, and I grew up in a very ethnic and chaotic family. My dad was an alcoholic. My mom suffered from extreme anxiety and depression. And I was what you would call the bonus child, so that just meant that no one thought I was ever going to be born. And my siblings are a lot older than me, so I had a lot of time by myself. And I found that probably around the age 7 or 8, I would wander down to the beach. Now, the beaches in Rhode Island are not always sandy. Ours was very rocky. And I would climb out by myself onto these rocks, and I would just sit there. And then I'd take another rock and smash the barnacles that were just below the surface of the water to see the fish come up and swim. And it took me away from the chaoticness and the hard place that I was living in as a child. And I just loved that. And the beach and the water has brought me solace ever since that time. And what's funny is I was so young, and I don't think anybody ever realized that I was even gone. And it was one of those things that I had to deal with throughout all of my life. Because of those mixed messages in childhood, I wasn't sure who I was. So I've embarked on a journey of reinventing myself. As Denise pointed out in my bio, I've done a few different things, and a lot more that weren't on there because it would be almost embarrassing, you know? So I'm curious to know, has anyone here ever reinvented themselves? Or is it just me? Yeah. And guess what? Every time we do that, we exercise that self-actualization muscle, and we become more of our authentic selves. I don't know if any of you have ever heard Edwene Gaines speak. She's a Unity minister who's known as the Queen of Prosperity. She wrote a book, The 4 Spiritual Truths of Prosperity. And one time when I heard her talking, she talked about, I think it was at least 5 husbands that she had. And she said, I learned something from every single relationship that I was in. And she believed that there was really a season and a reason for all of these relationships. And for the first time, it gave me permission to talk about my 2 husbands. And I didn't have the shame associated with that, because she gave me permission to be my authentic self and to own where I had been at different parts in my life. And for me, that was the biggest step I took in becoming myself. When we begin to have clarity around who we are, there isn't any shame. And as we discover this about ourselves, we allow others to do the same, just like she did for me and for probably countless other people. Now, Denise talked about when I was a nurse, and I was also a single mom at that time, and I was raising my children on about $48,000 a year. Iowa was ranked 50th in the country in their pay for nurses. So we had a medical sales rep that would come in and help me with some of the procedures for some of our pain patients. And I just asked her about what it would be like working with her, and I wore her down, and I eventually got an interview, and I got the job, and literally my salary doubled overnight. But I had no clue who I was. I went from wearing scrubs and sneakers to wearing suits and heels. And I went with a very conservative look, blacks and grays, and was very all buttoned up. Now, during this time of my new position, my youngest was in his tweens, and he was starting to spread his wings a little bit, let's say. And we'd get into these discussions. And during one of these discussions, he said to me, "You are a fake and a phony. All of this is a facade." And I remember thinking, oh, it's a proud mom moment. He knew how to use facade in a sentence. And then I thought, wait, he's talking about me. And you know what? He was right. He was right. And so what I did after that time, I decided I would go with some bolder colors. I would be, I still had to be professional, and so I did that. But I dyed my hair blonde, and I kept the high heels, and I got a chihuahua, and I became my version of Elle in the movie Legally Blonde. Oh, so in order for us to become and be our authentic selves, we have to be in alignment. And that means that our thoughts, actions, values, and beliefs all come together. Our thoughts, actions, values, beliefs. Say that with me. Thoughts, actions, values, and beliefs. One more time. Thoughts, actions, values, and beliefs. Perfect. We make those choices that align with our values. And in Science of Mind, we're always talking about how our thoughts create our reality. When our thoughts, actions, values, and beliefs are in alignment, there's harmony between our inner world and our outer world. Just saying, "I am aligned," helps to calm us down and be more peaceful. Let's say that together. I am aligned. Perfect. So next, we talk about intentions. And our intentions are the seeds that we plant in our lives that reflect our values. That sets the table for positive change in our lives and becoming our authentic selves. It falls right into alignment with our daily spiritual practice of reading, of journaling, of being in prayer and meditation and setting an intention. I know all of you are doing that every single day, right? This is awesome. So a daily practice of adding in that intention can really set the perfect day in motion for you. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, says this conscious commingling of our thought with spirit is essential to the well-being of every part of us. So after we've discovered our self-actualization, the truth of who we are, we go into alignment where our thoughts, actions, values, and beliefs come into play. We set our intentions, and now it's time to take action. When we take action, we allow ourselves to be who we are. We put all those practices in motion and become the spiritual individualization of the divine. Now, it's important to remember that this is a fluid kind of process. It's not all, actions, value, belief, it goes in that line. It doesn't work that way. Things, as we grow and change, we step out of something and move into something else. Do you know that Ernest Holmes never looked back? He would walk away from someplace and he would never look back. He didn't like to go to retreats. He would call it a seminar or something else. I only like to take a step back to look at how far I've come. It gives me great insight and judgment into what my next steps might be. And let's be honest right now, there is a real call to action for us in this world. As I said before, when we live a life of authenticity, we give permission for everybody else to do the same, just like Edwene did for me. It's free from shame, and it's filled with authentic expressions of the one. And isn't it all pretty wonderful that we get to show up who we are and not a clone of someone else that we want to be? When my first child was born, she was very busy. And I was a bonus child. I hadn't babysat or done anything with children. And so all of this feeding and changing pants and all of this stuff was a big deal to me. And it was exhausting. And I didn't think I was doing any of it right. And then when she got a little bit older and she became active, she didn't crawl anywhere. She would roll. She would log roll because it was faster to get there. And so I walked out of the room one day and I came back in. She was nowhere to be found because she had rolled down the hallway and into a bedroom to see just some new stuff. And so I thought, okay, after the baby gates went up, I put baskets of toys in various places around the room. So she could roll over to a basket, she'd play with some things in there, and then move to the next one and the next one. And she got back to the first one. If the toys hadn't been changed, she was not having it. She'd start crying. And so after one of these days of pants changing and feeding and the rolling around and the toys and all of this stuff, my husband comes home from work and says, "How was your day?" And I said, "It was awful. This child is exhausting me." And he said, "Fran, would you rather have had a docile lump?" And I said, yes, I would. Yeah. But if I had allowed that to happen and tried to make her into something that she wasn't, she would not have turned out to be the beautiful woman that she is now. She crusades for the rights of the LGBTQ community in Oregon. She has a beautiful job and a wonderful partner, and she is no docile lump, let me tell you. So just in closing today, I would like to leave you with a quote from a former NBA basketball player with the Boston Celtics, Jason Collins. He says this: "The best part of when you reveal your authentic self publicly is that it will allow those people around you, whether it's your teammates or people who you thought were your friends, to see their true colors come out. Some people who you might have thought would not be supporters end up being some of your biggest supporters. Just be you. Everybody else is taken. Remember who you are." Let's take that into prayer, shall we? Take a big breath in as we remember. We remember to remember who we are. We are the divine emanations of the One. For there is just the one power, the one presence, the one love, the one light. the magnificence that weaves its golden thread through all of humanity, connecting us not just to one another, but to spirit. And I recognize and behold that truth within each and every one of us, that we are here on this earth to be the beautiful expressions in our unique and wonderful ways of the one. We are not here to be clones of someone else. And anytime we start to worry or fear that we are not measuring up to someone else's standards, we just release that. And in its place comes the truth of who we are as we remember.
Remembering who I am. I am 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 remembering. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am. I am remembering. I am remembering who I am.
Just remember who we are. And as we enter into the holiday weekend, the Memorial Day weekend, we also remember those lives that have transpired and transformed and transcended before us. And we just give great thanks for that. I give great thanks for all the prayers that have been prayed in here as we lift our prayers up to commingle with those other prayers. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for this beautiful community. I am so grateful for this service. I am so grateful for this wonderful thing called life. And so I just release this prayer on the wings of love into that alchemy of love and law where it is done, it is here, it is already happening. I just let it be. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Some of you actually might remember this song. I sort of reinvented it a little bit. I know you're not surprised about that. I love myself the way I am. There's nothing I need to change. I'll always be the perfect me. There's nothing to rearrange. I'm beautiful. I'm capable of being the best me I can. And I love myself just the way I am. Here's one for you. I love you just the way you are. And I want you to know, when I look at you through the eyes of love, I know it's really so that you're beautiful, capable of being the best you can. And I love you just the way you are. How about for all of us? I love us just the way we are, and still I know we want to grow. We gotta treat and move our feet. I know that we're beautiful, capable, being the best us we can. And I love you just the way you are. And I love myself just the way I am. We're beautiful and capable, being the best we can. And I love myself just the way I am. Just the way you are. Just the way I am. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Rev Fran. Wasn't she wonderful, everybody?